My first question this week asked me if I think there are any bands where their first album is the worst place to start with that band. To be honest, I actually think there are a ton of bands where this is the situation, as a lot of releases come out before a band really can fully realize who they are and find their sound. In many cases, the band needs a couple albums to really make their mark, to figure out exactly where they're going to fit into the musical landscape. And so that debut record might not be bad, it just might not be their ultimate sound, and it might not be up to par comparatively. The grunge era is huge on these types of bands, as a lot of groups made smaller albums on smaller labels that were, it's not that they were bad, they just weren't as good. To name just a few bands off the top of my head where I think their debut album is actually the worst place to start because it's just not up to par comparatively, you got the Chili Peppers, Alice Cooper, the Flaming Lips. I mean, I've even heard people make this argument about Radiohead and David Bowie, and I really wouldn't argue against it that much. I think there's a good case there. I think the best example of this is a group like Pink Floyd, where their first album, while completely brilliant, sounds nothing like the rest of their catalog because of Syd Barrett. So if you wanted to get into Pink Floyd and the first thing you heard from them was Piper at the Gates of Dawn, you'd be very surprised and might not like the rest of what they do because it sounds nothing like that first record. A lot of bands do hit it out of the park on their debut and they know what they are as a band, but there are tons of things that go the other way, so it's really not always best practice to start with a band's first album. My second question asked if there's ever a time when I get burnt out on music. Now, I've addressed this before, but I think it's important to remind everybody every once in a while because there's absolutely nothing wrong with needing to take a break from music every once in a while. Like any art, music is all about sensory, and sometimes you get sensory overload and you just need a little bit of a break for some amount of time. It happens. I mean, if you're plowing through hours and hours of music every single day, your ears and your brain, they're gonna get a little bit tired. It's totally normal. Along with that, sometimes life will deal you situations where you don't want music. Maybe it's because you need to focus on something, and maybe it's because it's a negative situation and you don't want to associate music with it. There's all types of reasons you might not want music around. It doesn't make you less of a music lover or a music fan. It just means you need a break from music. It's totally normal. There's absolutely nothing wrong with feeling like you're burnt out from music from time to time as long as you keep coming back. My last question asked me what I thought of box sets and if there's any out there that I would recommend buying. Now, box sets to me are really hit or miss, and they've changed completely over the last 20 years or so. To me, there's basically three types of box sets. You've got reissues, you've got unreleased stuff, and then you've got best of collections. The last group I rarely have any interest in. You know, when they basically just repackage everything to try and make more money. It's the true greed of a band. With reissues, it really depends on the album. If it's something that really needed to be remastered, or if they bundle it with some sort of cool extras, I'm probably gonna jump in and check it out. But if it's like the fourth or fifth time that they've reissued it, or there's just nothing special about it, I'll pass. Now, if it's a box set of rare or unreleased stuff, I'm usually gonna buy it right away. That's the stuff I really dig. Now, granted, in 2015, there's not a ton of stuff that hasn't found its way to the internet in one way or another, but many of those collections, just the amount that they bring together and that ease of finding it makes it totally worth it. Some of my favorite box sets are that 9 or 10 disc set of the Sun recordings from Jerry Lee Lewis. There are awesome outtakes on there, different versions. If you're into Jerry Lee Lewis, you have to check that out. I also love Alice in Chains' Music Bank collection, and of course Metallica's Binge and Purge. That's great music and awesome packaging. So box sets aren't amazing or terrible across the board. It's all going to be on a case-by-case basis, and hopefully over the next few years with the vinyl resurgence, we'll see a lot more really cool box sets. So those are my questions for this week. If you've got a music-related question, go ahead and email it to me at thedailyguru@gmail.com. And then go hop down in the comments and you can tell me what your favorite box sets are. You can follow me on Twitter and Facebook right here, and I'll see you guys again next time.